All right, good afternoon, evening. Welcome to the Esoteric Lighthouse. We are a group of free and accepted Masons from regular and recognized Masonic Grand Lodges focused on the esoteric, occult, and philosophical lessons found in Freemasonry. This being a public forum, our views and interpretations are not legal or official statements or opinions of any Grand Lodges or Masonic bodies we hold membership with. All opinions, thoughts, and interpretations are solely that of the individual panelist. All right, good evening once again. This episode will be going over esotericism in movies and just highlighting a few things that we've seen over the years in different films and what sticks out to us and how we felt about it and what mind frame we were in or what we thought when we seen these things. Um, Not going to have a slideshow tonight, but we are going to discuss, and we might be doing some screen sharing and maybe a couple videos. Who knows? All right. For me, movies are a big thing, and as you know, movies are big in society, and there are tons of them. However, there are certain genres of movies and television shows that feature a lot of different esoteric tunes that are similar to initiatic rites and test of time, where you're even some movies for children, you're coming of age. One of my favorite movies growing up as a kid was don't beat me up, but it was The Wizard of Oz. And the reason it was The Wizard of Oz because it showed the rite of passage of somebody growing up and changing their life. Uh, some of the scenes with Dorothy, she's going down the yellow brick road, she finds the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow. With the Cowardly Lion, he's missing a heart. With the Scarecrow, he's missing a brain. Or sorry, the Tin Man is missing a heart. The Cowardly Lion is scared, and the he's supposed to be the king of the jungle. And the Scarecrow is missing a brain. Well, if you know masonry and you know certain parts of your ritual, you know those aspects and those things. They they represent certain penalties of your obligation. At the same time, when you look at it, in previous episodes, I've talked about the three brains or the three centers of the body: the intellect, the instinct, and the emotional centers. So with the Cowardly Lion, what you're missing, he's missing that instinctual center, which is found in the gut, and he is in search of retrieving that so he can have that strong courage to and his instinct to be the king of the jungle. Then you turn around and you look at the Scarecrow is missing his brain. He doesn't have intellect. He can't even have an intellectual conversation. And then you have the cold, callous, hard tin man. He doesn't have a heart. He doesn't have an emotional center. He's lacking that to become a complete man. These three aspects are all three bodies inside of one person. Dorothy, she's the symbiosis of this. She's the Shekinah. She is the spirit behind the whole thing. This is also the tree of life. This talking about Kabbalah when you look at this. And I'm just talking about one movie. And this is the story of the Wizard of Oz.
And it's ironic that you point out the Wizard of Oz because some of us may or may not know that the author actually of the Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, was a member of the Theosophical Society. And for those that of us who know what that is, that deals within the occultism. And then you pointed out how Dorothy took her journey on the Yellow Brick Road. Now, for the most part, that could be looked at as allegorical in consideration to the path of enlightenment, if you will. If you ever notice how when they was walking down that yellow brick road, especially when they got to that point where they kept going around in a circle, if you will, when they kept walking through that part, and then each character when you pointed out the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Cowardly Lion, there were certain tasks that they had to complete in order to gain what it is that they were searching for, like the heart, the brain, and the courage. And the whole time, their whole journey through, uh, if you will, through those trials and tribulations, it was also, they had to go through certain rites to enter into that next stage of where they were. And then let's look at Emerald City. One could actually say that Emerald City was symbolic of heaven, if you will, because you went from one situation into another where everything was glittery and gold, and the whole city was of made out of emeralds, one of those precious gems and or jewels that you will find on the breastplate of the high priest, and when you go into Melchizedek, and when you look into the different stations that they went to when they first came in there. So I found a lot of irony in all that, just the whole concept of that movie itself.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead.
Yeah, when you look at the Wizard of Oz, one aspect is that it's the allegorical tale of the soul's path to illumination.
Yes.
So they talk about the yellow brick road and how it's a theosophical teaching, or the golden path. So then you look at, you're going from a physical plane to a spiritual plane. That's where the whirlwind kind of takes her to that ethereal realm, a path to illumination. And then they also say that could also represent reincarnation, the round of physical birth, death of the soul, going to the divine. There's another aspect that speaks about her silver shoes, which represent the silver cord, and how at the last minute she was like considered to be the link between how she could get back between the spiritual and the physical, that she had to click her shoes or something like that. There's also where they say that the wizard, in fact, stood for the Old Testament personal God, or the Christians, because he wasn't really real. He was behind the curtain. So it was kind of like, it was kind of like that fake spiritual religion to keep people in spiritual darkness.
He was behind the veil, and they had to pierce the veil. Actually, right. And you see when the dog Toto came up and he grabbed him by the ankle, what that represents is the animal nature. It's evolved past seeing the illusion. Your animal nature has conquered the illusion, and that's what the dog represent. The dog represented the animal nature inside of each and every one of us, which we must conquer. However, that animal nature is what guides us on the path into an enlightenment.
Right. And then it's like you talk about the witches, that's north and the south and the east and the west. So the north and the south were supposed to be the good witches, east and the west are the bad. So you got like the cross, vertical and horizontal axis coming together. Right. So you talk about that as well. I mean, you can get really deep with it. So
and then you notice how Glinda, the good witch, would be symbolic of the mother archetype, if you will, because you notice how she took care of Dorothy, Toto, the Tin Man. She guided each of them on that journey. And then at the end, when she told Dorothy, just all you had to do was click your heels, because it's always been in you. You always had power to elevate to that next plane. So she demonstrated that motherly archetype.
Yeah. That's that Kundalini right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
But with the when they were walking on that path, you notice that they're always on a constant move, and it never stops. It never ceases. A challenge after challenge. That's the dwelling and threshold that each one of us have to face. It's when we're in that sleeping state, it's always going to be something that's going to jolt us back and awake and bring us into awareness. Then another thing I wanted to highlight is about those wicked witches. The Wicked Witch of the West, she was killed by the northeast corner of her house. So what does that mean? That's the place of darkness when you're an entered apprentice. Then
Mm-hmm.
flash forward, the other wicked witch, she got killed by water. So tide ebbs and flows twice in 24 hours, things like that. You start doing the math and you kind of see where the authorship was coming from on certain aspects. Then another thing, I wrote a paper on the Wizard of Oz a long time ago, and one thing I noticed was that Wizard of Oz, OZ, he was flying on a balloon that started with BA. So you do an anagram with those letters, and you'll come up with another word.
Right, right, right. And it's crazy when you look at the just a quick note. The writer L. Frank Baum, he was a notable theosophist, and he had written already series of articles on Buddha, Muhammad, Confucius, and Christ before he even wrote The Wizard of Oz. So he kind of like took it and dumbed it down into such a way and made it like the archetype typology writing in a calm fashion that people could probably hopefully understand what he was trying to convey in all those teachings into one story. It's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
He was real dope with his. Who's all seen the Holy Mountain?
I haven't seen it.
Is that the one where the dude goes up there and finds God or something, whatever?
Well, basically the Holy Mountain is a real weird movie from the 1970s, and this is actually one of my occult classic favorite movies of all time. But basically, what he does, he starts out and he travels to different planets and the different zodiacs, and he's traveling through Mexico, and he's in search of the Holy Mountain, and he's going through different phases of seeing the horrors on our planet, the things that are going wrong, and then by the time he gets to the top of the mountain, he said the guy, he gets there and he's like, well, this is just life. I'm at the top of the mountain and the only thing I can do is gaze down.
Right.
After all the stuff I've been through, we're looking for God, but what I found is myself. I'm all alone on top of this mountain, and I'm just an actor in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, for me, that hit home. It's like we're casting a big movie or a big play. We all have our roles to play and our roles to fulfill. Right. Each one of our roles is different from another person's. We may walk in the same light for a minute, but at the same time, our roles change, and it changes daily, minutes, things like that. We're cast for different parts. And I think where people fail to realize in life is that you can't always play the same role all the time. You must change roles and you must change characters. Mm-hmm. And that was one good thing about this movie, because not only did the lead character change roles, but he not only did he see that other people were changing roles, he changed roles as well, and he changed his thinking. So in reality, with movies like that, especially coming of age movies and rites of initiation, they're all telling you that you're coming from one place to another place, and you cannot be the same person that you started out with. And that's life in general. People who want to continue the same life from the time they were born to the time they die, they're living a pipe dream, because it's inevitable that change will happen. It may be a subtle change, it may be a drastic change, but people will notice the change in you.
That's that guy, Alejandro Jodorowsky?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's that. I try to watch it, but it's like it's kind of like art and philosophy, and it's like if you don't have acquired taste and patience, people would think you're watching something really weird. It's like that Clockwork Orange type stuff. It's like you got to be almost high to understand what the heck's going on. If you ain't into it, you lose interest real quick.
Yeah. And but yeah, you'll lose interest real quick. But the thing that is stuck out, a lot of it stuck out to me. There's another movie that's worse than that. It's called The Crematorium. It's a German movie.
Yeah.
And that one, it's got full-blown masonry all through the movie.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's bananas. Your brain, I'm just like, how did they think of this stuff? How
Yeah.
can you wrap your consciousness around it?
Yeah.
But then it takes in all of what's going on in society as well. How, you know, we're manipulated by media and what we see on TV instead of seeking out what's within. And that's what he was doing. He was trying to show you what was within,
Yeah.
but it was the way he was showing it. It was crazy.
Yeah. 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 It's like Stanley Kubrick. He's another one, but it's like those authors and those producers. They were trying to, like, Odyssey 2001, Eyes Wide Shut, all that stuff. They were trying to tell you that something else is going on and you're not seeing it. You know, like they the movie with was it Roddy Piper, and they had the glasses, and you put the glasses on, you could see like, but they were really aliens or something like that. It's like,
Oh, yeah, was
you know
that
what I'm talking
Z?
about?
Yeah.
What was his name?
They live. They live.
They live, yeah, they live, yeah. So they live. It was like what you were saying about society and how programming happens, is that the media is giving us this backdrop, but there's like subliminal messages happening that you really can't see until you put on these glasses or you change your vision, change how you think and you see, and then you can see that, oh no, they're really programming us, and I watched this other movie where the guy was saying, and it just came out on Disney Plus. It's a bunch of kids, and this guy he recruits these kids because they have not been tainted by television and society. They don't watch TV at all, and he's telling them that TV and the water, there's something in the water that makes humans over time more susceptible to subliminal messages that's coming over radio and TV. But these kids don't do it, so they're so smart you can't pull one over on them. They know something's not right. And it's like movies over time that I've seen over the years, they've always said the same thing. Something's in the water, something's on TV, something's in the air. It's like stuff is always trying to cloud our vision to not let us see what's really going on. That this is a 3D dimensional fake reality type virtual nonsense that we really not here. And our mind is being clouded. And once we kind of wake up, we may change everything, and then the whole program is going to go awry and it's not going to work anymore. So like
I think there's some truth to it to a certain standpoint. I don't think they just come up with these things. I think they do a lot of research and they know a lot of things that we don't know. So they kind of put it in films. And even if people is watching the movies or the TV shows are not really picking up on it, but the hints are there. So it takes a select few people to really pay attention, understand, and dissect the movies to grasp the message what they're saying, man. So I think that's dope too.
And then when we're watching these shows, what are we watching it on? Television, and to tell a vision to what's actually going on in the future, or in what it is that you're looking for. Back to the movie you had pointed out, Michael, where the guy goes to the mountain, and it's kind of ironic because I mean, it's for us as humanity, as we have that constant search and seeking light, if you will, or seeking God. At the end of the journey, what we find is our true self, our true nature, who we are as man.
It's crazy.
That's that outcome when when you look and you keep searching, and then you end up finding yourself before anything else.
But you have to face your fear to get to that point. If you go back to the Wizard of Oz, when they first met the wizard, the cowardly lion ran all the way back and jumped out and ended up in the forest.
Yeah.
So what was notable about that movie is I grew up watching it too. And in the beginning, in black and white, she's in the real world, her physical reality. You don't find out until the end, when she's back in black and white, that the entire experience was a dream. So it kind of tells you that our mental energy and capacity is limited by our physical manifestation. But you have to go through that mental reality, that mental vision, your imagination, your inner self, to learn these lessons, to face those fears, to pull back that veil, to find who you are. And then you can bring those lessons back to you, to your real world. And her being able to come back home was her being able to manifest her reality. And it's also found in the movie Hook, with Robin Williams in 1996 is he was himself as a child, but as he grew up, he forgot who he was. And in order to find out and to be able to manifest that reality, he had to untether himself from those distractions, those vices and superfluities, and find his true self.
And it's funny that you just pointed that out about the Wizard of Oz, how it was in black and white, and then it went to Technicolor, and then it went back to black and white. You just saying that just in my mind just sparked that black and white. It's kind of almost like that mosaic tile. You're still on that ground floor. You still, and then as you continue your journey and you find your way, then you go from there and you go into Technicolor and you're experienced to, and you're exposed to all these other things that enlighten or illuminate the rest of your mindset. But then back to what you said, brother, you at the end of the movie, you went back to black and white, kind of in remembrance. You're still always on that mosaic tile throughout your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Who's seen this movie right here, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus?
I had to watch it like 50 times to understand what the heck was going on.
Yeah, it tripped me out at first too, but when you start seeing what's going on, he was looking through the looking glass. It was kind of like a trippy version of Alice in Wonderland. And this is
right.
another one where this guy, he's going on a spiritual journey, and he was a bad person, and it was really trying to make a good man better. And the person that was helping him was the devil.
Yep.
The devil helped to make himself a good man.
And I kind of noticed on there, I see that mosaic tile once again.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it was a common theme throughout the whole movie. It was like every other scene, you were seeing a checkerboard floor.
Yep.
And the devil helped him break the illusion. If you look on the left side of the poster, it's showing the two different personalities. You have the good personality and the bad personality. The bad personality was supposed to be the good guy, but it actually was the devil that was the good guy, and he was helping Heath Ledger's character remember who he was, to find the true essence inside of himself.
So that sounds like the duality of man.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was personifying who Lucifer really is, the light, the illumination. Like we always demify, or we make Lucifer demonize. Thank you. We always demonize Lucifer, make him the bad guy, but no, he's the dude that keep it real and try to show you what it really is. Like, nah, dude, this is what I'm trying to tell you. You need to listen. And it's not trying to kill you. He's trying to give you insight. So,
well, and that's that's the very meaning of Prometheus.
right.
Oh
Prometheus
yeah, that was a good movie as well.
Mm-hmm. He gave that light to man, and that light was knowledge.
Yep. It's like in the Bible, the knowledge of good and evil. That was the sin to God, supposedly, to say, hey, now that I know that there is duality, now that I know that I can do either one or the other, it was that God didn't want that. So he didn't want that for man. He wanted man to walk in eternal life regardless. He didn't want you to know that there could be a duality that came from him. But now that we do know that there's a duality, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I am naked. Should I be naked? Like, you see a naked body, but you didn't really pay attention to it. So it's just like now in some cultures that are still what they would have considered third world, like women walk around naked all the time, but it's not perverse. Like you don't think nothing of it because that's what they do. But you do that over here, it's like, whoa, you can't, what you doing? You can't do that, So when you raised around that culture, when you raised around not thinking that that's wrong, you're not going to think nothing of it because that's how it is. It's natural. This is a natural way of growing up. And when you perverse it and you make it the wrong thing, you make it something that needs to be idolized or misogynistic, then it becomes an evil thing. Then it becomes a sinful thing because then it has to be controlled. So it's like, so that I kind of see where they were going with that, but it's a good movie though. It's a good movie. I like it.
Yeah.
Speaking on duality and two different paths. I want to go back to the Wizard of Oz. There was two brick roads. There was a red one and a yellow one, and no one ever mentions the red brick road.
Yeah, no, they didn't mention the red one too much. It was always focusing on the yellow brick road, and um, it yeah,
Where
supposedly
did
the
it
pool represents you going to spiritual enlightenment via the vehicle of the solar body. When
Yep.
you have the Atman, Buddhi, and Manas, and then when you're traveling through the different dimensions or dimensions of the mind, which we call the astral plane, you need different bodies to travel in. And the gold she was traveling in, that represented the astral world, and you travel the astral world to enlightenment using a solar body. You can't use a lunar body or moon body to reach enlightenment because it only is going to get a reflection or cast from a shadow.
Oh wow. Very good.
Yep.
Huh. Huh.
Yeah, so essentially, what we have is what they call the lunar body. You have your physical body, then your lunar body is your etheric double. And your etheric double, that's what we're supposed to use when we're in our dream state. That's what we're using when we're astral projecting and things like that. And what we're supposed to be doing is cultivating our subtle energies, which is found in the three centers, and those three agreeing. And when those three agree, you're able to start developing your solar bodies to be able to ascend into higher levels of understanding of consciousness and psyche to reach that Buddha nature.
So what it was, so the scarecrow was the brain, right? And
Right.
and your heart was the lion because he didn't have a
Well,
heart.
no,
No,
the Tin Man was the heart,
But Timon was the heart, right.
and the lion was the instinctual center found in your gut.
That's right. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
So if Glenda knew that Dorothy could click her heels and go back home at the beginning when she first got there, why didn't she tell her that from the get go instead of sending her through the yellow brick road and fighting her own Glenda's enemy, a 6-year-old girl who doesn't have any type of powers or anything. Like when she found out that water could kill the witch, that was by accident.
Right. Yeah, but remember what I just said. You're developing that soul. You're develop, and that's she had to go on the path, and she had to raise herself to a new level in order to understand that all she had to do was click her heels 3 times because the power was it within her. That's like the last dragon. The whole movie he going around looking for who's the master, who's the master, who's the master.
right.
Then finally he get to the end, he realized that he's the master the whole time, and then he get that golden glow, and then he get busy, he get down.
Right, right. And it's amazing how you always come back to the battery or the sound or the knocks. There's always got to be three, or it's funny because when we did the logic perfection degree work, it's a lot of batteries in that degree in that 14. It's like 3, 5, 7, 9. So you get a lot of knocking that happens, and everybody's trying to understand what all that means. And you explain, how it is it's supposed to recognize and symbolize the transition of not only going from not knowing to knowing and the ages of masonry, but it's a deeper thing that's saying, hey, now you're going to a deeper level, a deeper understanding. So that sound is supposed to resonate. It's not supposed. It's supposed to be a very hard and deep sound. So yeah, it's just that she knocked it. She clicked the heels 3 times. So it's pretty significant.
Yeah. Another good one, I know Brother House isn't on, but he talked about it a lot, was the ninth gate. He was on it last month, going over the ninth gate
Yeah.
and all the different things. That's that one. That one's very occultish and dark, but at the same time, it's traveling. You're still raising that subtle energy to a level of understanding, and it's based on the tarot, but at the same time, Where does the tarot come from? It comes from the Kabbalah.
Yep.
And those 9 gates, those represented 9 Sephiroth. And he's passing through all the Sephiroth, and he's trying to find the way through,
Right.
essentially.
Right. Wasn't that in relation to Dante's Inferno too?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's in relationship to Dante's Inferno too, not the video game, but the movie, or not the book.
Well, the game was good too, but yeah.
Yeah, the game was good too. But when you look at Dante's Inferno, one of my favorite lines out of that book was when Virgil told Dante that the only difference between heaven and hell is the width of a hair.
Yep.
So when you think about the width of a human hair, how wide is it? It's not that wide. So that's the difference between heaven and hell. The Buddha even taught that's the same, the only difference between heaven or nirvana and samsara is the veil that that you're covering it with. And heaven or nirvana is here, and hell is also here too. It's just how you perceive it and how you choose to live. It all boils down to your choice. And when you look at movies like this, what are they doing? They're making choices. They're making decisions on how they're going to approach a situation. They're problem solving, and they're trying to, find the right solution to navigate on the right path. But as you notice, if somebody always tried to travel the same path as them, something happened to them, some type of catastrophe happens. But that's meant because that means that we're not meant to travel the same path. I can't travel the same path as Tim Fields, Coney Vons, and Chris Leonard. Nope, you can't even travel the path of Michael Williams. Why? Because it's not meant for you. And in certain degrees of masonry, people tried to travel those certain paths, and then they were crushed.
Yep.
So what does it mean? Each one of us has to follow our own choices, and we have to see them through.
It's like heaven and hell is a level of consciousness based on the choices that we have made, and we shape our reality. I mean, that's really all it's ever been. And that's all the Bible's been trying to teach us. And that's all Christ was trying to teach. But people always think that it's a place. And it's like when he says, my father has a house of many mansions. I always look at it as a place of many perspectives, a place of many states of being in God. Like, not just like you said, my path is different from yours, so my world is going to be different from yours.
Right.
And that's why I always think when we talk about different dimensions and different worlds, in a more practical sense, everybody on this call, we have our own world, and in that world, we have worlds within that world. And then it's like when you see society, Robert was saying, he went to jujitsu. That's a whole different world within itself. That's a whole different universe within itself, because those people, what they do, how they act, how they interact. And then you go to masonry, that's a whole different world. You know what I'm saying? So everything that we do, who we interact, and how we construct our life basically is our own universe, is our own dimensions, is our own world. And either how we think, live, and act, that's how we create our world. And it can be hell or it can be heaven. It's just, like you said, it's always based upon our choices that we make.
And then you made me think about another good movie. It's not really a cult, but it's kind of funny. But The Mask with Jim Carrey.
That's another good one.
Yeah. So when you think about it, it lets you know that we all have different masks, and those masks, or it's just like those different worlds, those different planes. We have different masks. We have our Masonic mask. We have our family mask. We have our work mask. We have our, we have our friends, outside of Masonry mask. We wear different masks or different outfits each time we're dealing with other people. And even when we go out and it's with somebody new that we don't know, we're wearing a different mask. And the mask that we wear with new people tends to be stoic because we don't know if we can trust this person or not.
Yeah. I think the Greek word for persona is face. So we always have a different persona to us, a different dimension, like dad, father, son, worshipful master, past master, whatever you want to call it. Like we have black belt jujitsu. You know, I can give you a hug and I can beat you up at the same time. You know, it's like we have different aspects to us because that's who we are. We shape. That's part of our world. You know.
Right. And then another thing you made me think about when people say keep it real, just based on that. What do you mean by keeping it real? Keeping it real is wearing the mask that you have to wear at that moment.
Yep. Yep.
That is keeping it real.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about, I mean, not to change the subject, but it's like I was talking to my oldest son because he's going to Lincoln University, and he's talking about code switching. And one of the hardest things to do, or kind of, I should say, understand at that young age, is that as you grow in this society, you have to learn how to adapt to your environment and navigate properly. And some people may say, oh, you've been a sellout. No, I can't talk to these group of people at work the same way I talk to my brothers at lodge, the same way I talk to my boys on the, at home, because they're not going to understand the vernacular in which I talk. They're not going to understand my diction, because I have to present myself in a way that audience, know your audience, know your audience, know your audience. So I can't say certain words because they're not going to get it. Like my boss is not going to know what I mean by, yo, that's tight. Like, I like that. He's like, what? I don't understand what that means. So, and I can't talk to my friends, talking to them about, Scrum Master and, deep, philosophical terms of software development, because they like, I don't even do that. I don't understand that. So I have to learn how to code switch, but you do it so naturally, we don't even know we do it, because we just flow. We just flow like that. So people get with us because we can do it naturally.
Right.
But
go ahead.
I say it gleans to the idea of parallel universes. If each of us is in our own world, each mental space is its own reality. We exist in parallel with the idea everyone else has of us. So that mask we put on for each person is a different state of existence that we occupy in that person's reality, their world, their perspective. And we could find that on TV with that show Dark we watched about a year ago, how you had three different states of reality, three different planes, all interconnected. And in each plane, the same characters existed. They just existed differently and functioned differently until they were able to go through the space, interact, and change the reality of each particular place, which is what we can do with friends. Because like Mike said, we meet someone new, we're stoic because we don't know if we can trust that person. But as that relationship grows, we become more of ourselves, and we can wear a different mask, thereby interacting with their perception or their reality or that parallel version of us that they have in their own universe and world. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Oh, man. Hey, first of all, it's been a minute, man. I appreciate y'all. But Chris reminded me of the movie that y'all introduced me to was Interstellar, where you're talking about time.
Oh,
that
yeah.
movie is oh my god! Hey, I couldn't go without bringing up that movie because literally everyone should watch it. Not just because it's a great cinematic piece, in my opinion. One, I did a research on it. The science on the depictions of like the black hole, and it's actually based in truth of what they truly feel like some of these things will look like. And I just thought that was interesting because it was the best display of showing that time is just a dimension or something that we construct. It was hard. I could understand before, but that visual representation, now I have a different view on time itself. And I feel that I can master time now, 24-inch gauge or something like that, because I can understand that this is a construct that I have. You know what I mean? Like, I made this up. If I go somewhere else, time would be something different. So this is just me. But I had to bring that in there. That reminded me of Interstellar all day.
Man, Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors anyway. If you go back and you look at most of his movies, even with one of his newest ones with Tenet, man, it's a lot of deep stuff in there, man.
Yeah, and it all has something to do with time and manipulating time, space, and matter. Yeah. And it's almost like he's looking at re-engineering the Big Bang, because the Big Bang is basically time, space, matter, and gravity that got disconnected. Those four different things broke apart, And then Einstein started talking about space-time, and as the Big Bang spread out, the sheet of space-time came out and everything settled on this thing. He actually did an experiment with a Russian scientist during the middle of World War II, I believe. Since he couldn't go there, the Russian scientist, there was a major eclipse going on. So this to prove his theory with this major eclipse, he had the scientists look through one of their like weird telescopes to view eclipses to see if the light around the sun concaved in, and if it concaved in, it would prove that space-time or space-time was real. And the sun and the eclipse, when the light bent around it, proved that there actually is this sheet or something he would consider a sheet of space and time together, and everything is moving in a centrifugal motion around it, or circumambulation around, spheres circling around other spheres. With that, you're talking about time, and another one we watched not too long ago had the guy, uh, dang it, the new Captain America, the Black Captain America. What's his name?
Oh, you're talking about Synchronicity?
Yeah.
When he found a way to go through time and all that.
Yeah, with the pineal gland. That was
the
he activated his
Yeah.
pineal gland,
Yeah.
and he traveled through time by stepping in different places in his room, and each place in his room took you into a different level of time.
Yeah, he had to take something. Was it some type of pill or something?
Yeah, it was a pill called Synchronic.
Yeah.
And with all of that, these movies and this whole conversation, it got me thinking, and me and Brother Earl was talking about this earlier this week. When you look at time, time is just a construct that we use to measure our day-to-day activities. So if time doesn't really exist, and then we think about reincarnation and things like that, and when you think about Isis, when she said, "I am what is, was, and always and shall be," you put that into a weird space. Well, for me, a weird space. But what if reincarnation and all of these things are happening at the same time, and we're a constant symbiosis of life living in every moment, but we only have one realization of this current moment that we're living in, because somehow our incarnation is needed for a particular message at this point in time.
So so I see what you're saying. So what I got from that movie is, if you look at, say, a cup, and you put different things in that cup over time, the cup is still the cup. It still remains to be. So wherever he stood in relation to the moment, the time or events occurred in that moment, because he stood somewhere and he was either like in the ice age, or he was somewhere in the woods with the aborigines, but it didn't matter. He was still in the same spot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So his spot never moved. It's just the events of the time around that spot moved. So it's not so much that time doesn't exist or exist. It's just that those moments or those occurrences of things are always going to continue to happen, but it's all relative to the position or your station in place. So that's where we always go back to the lodge. It's like your station in place is always going to be stationary. It's always going to be static, but things are happening around it. That's that circumambulation. That's that sun movement. That's that going from darkness to light. You're going to be there, but things are still moving. Things are still evolving. Things are still revolving. Things are still evolutioning around you. So it's like the earth is doing three things. It's tilting, it's revolving, and it's evolving. So it's like it's doing all this, but it's still static. It's still there. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just there. But it's still moving, it's happening. So it's like in our life, we are a static object, but over time things are happening around us in multiple directions all around us. And I kind of look at the Kabbalah like that too, because I was telling my son, it looks like flat when you look at it on paper, but I always look at it as a multidimensional object and you can kind of see how the Sephiroth, if you really look at it, everything is stationary, but as things are happening around it. And for you to
Right.
move from each Sephiroth to the next, that's you going from a different station or place to another, but time is still revolving around that Sephiroth. Things are still moving around it.
Yeah, and you remind me of the depiction of the Kabbalah as the stizum,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's a whole bunch of lines, and each line represents a different Sephiroth. And if each line represents a different Sephiroth and is generating energy like a wavelength from the point in the center outwards, and as each one is doing it, it is a particular motion, and you basically revolving, and it is not a stagnant thing as most people perceive it to be.
Right. Right. It's just like what was it? The Avengers. In the second movie, when they had to go through the timelines and get the different stones, and when he got up to Doctor Strange's mentor, she was like, at first she was hesitant because she said, if you do this, you're gonna cause a what they call like a rift or branching off of an original timeline, and it'll cause confusion. But then she said, well, it has to happen. That branch has to happen, because if that branch didn't happen, that was the one scenario that Doctor Strange saw out of the billions he had in his head that was going to work. So it's like those branchings or those varying off or those different vectors, they have to happen. Because if they don't happen, other vectors can't occur, other dimensions, other possibilities won't be. What was I watching the other day? It was a movie where it was with Matt Damon and he was in love, and it was these people with hats, and they was trying to make him not fall in love because there was a plan, and that plan had all these different connections that if he fell in love with her, certain things were going to happen, not just to him and her, but the people in their universe. So if she never met him, she would be successful and the people around her would be successful. But when she met him, she quit being a ballerina. So the ballerina club or other people that work with her, they didn't do it anymore. And the God didn't want that to happen, because we don't understand that every choice that we make affects, again, the universe around us. Because once we change our mind, things start to do what? Diverge, and then you get different one-offs.
Yeah, and it's the same God that was in the movie we were just talking about.
Yeah, the Adjustment Bureau. Yeah,
Adjustment Bureau.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Yep. That's it. Yeah.
This is show that just came out. Loki. I don't know if everybody's been watching it, but it goes into the multiverse and the changing different events and stuff like that. So, especially the finale just came out last night. So whoever hasn't watched it, you got to check it out. I'll talk about it when it's when everybody watches it.
Yeah. Then
It goes into the future MCU movies. It's going to connect those with this.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin for anybody who haven't watched Loki, but Loki, the TV show on Disney Plus.
I was just about to say Loki and the time.
Yeah,
man.
The time police.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time police.
Yeah. And, like Biggie would say, it was all a dream.
Yeah, it was all a dream.
Right.
Yeah, but we take time for granted, and then again, me and Brother Earl was talking earlier this week, and when it comes down to time, Brother Earl said, what does wasting time really mean?
Yeah.
And I say, we don't really waste time. We just waste energy and potential.
Right. Opportunities. Yeah.
An opportunity.
Yeah, because time can never be wasted, because time continues. It's just whether or not are we a part of that continuum of time. It goes back to what you just said, Brother Coney. We just wasted.
Yeah.
We lost that opportunity to value our time, because that time continuum, it's you're either on board or you're going to get left.
Right.
It's always going to be there. It's just going to be your choice to be a participant or a standby. Somebody that's just going to get passed by. Right. And when you look at society, most people, that's what they're doing. They're getting passed by. Although we're talking about movies, Many of us, we got other things that we do. Movies is just one of our hobbies. It ain't our life. But
Right.
the flip of the coin, we know people whose movies are their lives, and they don't do anything but sit back at home and watch movies and don't do anything else with their lives.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a
what's
good
the
point
potential?
because yes, for us, movies are during our leisure. You know, it's kind of like we're at refreshment, if you will. But we're watching these movies and making sense of these movies and are, you know, actually having thought processes about these movies and then applying it to current situations, you know, like for instance, all the movies that we've just mentioned, we're analyzing them and breaking it down. It's like, wow, this is interesting because this is, yeah, it's a movie, but this is some real life, you know, ish going on for real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that I had did in my lecture was I talked about the ritual and the importance of ritual. And I always go back to being divested of metallic substances. This is the one thing that always stuck out with me when I joined Masonry. And one of the things that one of me and other lecturers talked about is that when we study the words in these rituals, in these degrees, it changes your mind, it changes your consciousness. You're not just memorizing stuff. You begin to understand something a little different. And then it comes out of you. Because sometimes in our conversation amongst ourselves, we'll say stuff and somebody be like, "Oh, that's the charge from the third degree. You just spit a verse, and I didn't even know it because now it's a part of you. It's like so now you begin to think like that. So then what happens is you're speaking to yourself. You are changing your mind when you do this ritual work. It is not just it's so intricate and I always go back to Scottish Rite, and this is why I tell everybody you got to join the Scottish Rite because it's so much stuff, even setting up the Lodge of Perfection, all the daggone furniture you got to put in there. And everybody's like, what you need an urn for? What you need that? What you need that? What you need that for? And why you need a pillar of Enoch? What's all that for? It's crazy because all that signifies a step or a mode of consciousness by which you recognize. Even with the bread and wine, it's like yeah, that's a pagan ritual, but what is it symbolic of? Why are we doing that? Well, I'm transforming your mind right now. I'm taking you to a different level. You think I'm drinking grape juice and a cracker, but what I'm really trying to teach you is that it's a symbolic of body and wine because you begin to take off your natural, and now you're becoming spiritual. So now you're going to think on a whole different level. You know what I'm saying? So you're not just going to put on this ring and think that, oh, well, I'm going to keep doing me. No, you're going to change you. You're going to walk different. You're going to step different. You're going to talk different. It's like with Mike. Mike went from jumping buildings and doing, I don't know what they call the French word for that, but he was doing a lot of that stuff. Yeah, parkour. And then he's out there in Iraq, bombing people. And now he's running lodges and stuff. So it's like the phases of your life, it all boils together. It always goes back to the choices in the universe. Everything revolves around you. It's crazy, man. I'm getting excited.
You got me thinking about the red and the white, man. That Fountain of Wisdom book I was reading today. He started breaking down that red and white. If y'all notice, I use red and white drops in some of my pictures, but the blood and the wine, or the blood/wine, or the bread and wine, is symbolic of red and white. And what it represents is the red represents the female aspect, where the white represents the male aspect, and is the two energies that are inside of both of us, both male and female, that when we come together mentally, physically, and emotionally with our significant others, we're trading our red with their white, and they're trading their white with our red to become a symbiotic unit.
Chromosomes.
Yeah, that's
Chromosomes.
like the sperm and the blood.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's that you told me, Mike? 72 drops?
72 drops of sperm.
Wow.
72 drops of blood is supposedly equal one spermatozoon. And then when you look at the names of God, there's 72 names of God, or 72 different archetypes. When
Yeah.
you take it back to a Kabbalistic level, what's 7 plus 2? That's 9. And that's the Sephiroth that I'm actually kind of working on. If you notice this picture back here, give y'all a little glimpse of what I'm working on. But we just saw it, the ninth sphere, it's that's that focal point where you're coming from that physical into the spiritual, and it's through the vessel of the blood or the water. when Moses parted the Reed Sea, that's what that was representing. That red was the red or reed was the blood, and he was parting that blood, and he was crossing, and he was bringing those archetypes with him, the good archetypes, into a new place and guiding them towards the promised land. So that the Reed Sea or the Red Sea is that's that water, that's your blood. And then you notice that they always eating manna, shoe bread, unleavened bread.
Right.
The bread represents the wisdom.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Also, there's a book that talks about this too. I have a book by Manly F. Hall called Old Testament Wisdom. It explains a lot of this stuff. So if you brothers want to get it, I suggest you guys do it. Real good read.
Yes, sir, Mr. Librarian. I will.
Yes. So back to you, Brother William. So you saying like the unleavened bread, which, just because you said that, now I'm going deeper. Now I'm starting to think about my apron. When it was first put on you, and you were told it was, the unsoiled, if you will, unsoiled, unleavened, to remain that purification of it all, and not, because when I think about it, see, man, you have rock, sand, but without the water, it's kind of not complete. It's not for that mortar, that what's that? What's that we were told? I'm trying to remember the exact verbiage for it. But now, you just caused me to think and correlate those two with the unleavened bread. And now, Masonically, I'm thinking, oh, okay. So that's kind of like the definition of the apron being to keep it from being unsoiled, but it's not in the literal, but in a figurative and spiritual aspect, that you can't build a foundation if it's not complete.
So if you look at, I'm sorry, go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Brother Cole.
Yeah, because we talk about bread and wine, and we talk about Melchizedek. What did he bring?
Yes.
He brought bread and wine, right? So then we go back to that again, wisdom that we get in that bread, and that bread is what we trying to attain between strength and beauty. Why? Because man lived not by bread alone, but out every word that proceeded out the mouth of God. So we begin to get that God consciousness, that wisdom that puts us into Da'at again, so that we can reach Kether. So we always trying to reach the bread of God, or the wine, bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. The manna that was given into the wilderness to the children of Israel, that fell from heaven. That wisdom. That's good. That's good.
Hey. Trying to find this thing real quick by Samael Anveor. He broke down something about the leavened bread and Sophia. I read it about 8 years ago, and I can't remember exactly which book it's in, but when he was talking about it, that was one of the first things that made me start looking into the different types of bread, and how wisdom and things like that came about. Then you just mentioned Melchizedek on the side of the road with the bread and wine for with Abraham, and Abraham went from Abram to Abraham. Notice they added the ha, which the Hebrew letter hey into the Abram to create Abraham. And so what is that? He gained some type of spiritual spirit from that relationship that he had gained with Melchizedek on the side of the road. Now, and those who know what the hey means, and Brother House probably get me if I get it wrong, but the hey, it's feminine in nature. It means it's a reception. So it's a receiving element, and it's feminine. So when Abraham received the Eucharist of bread and wine with Melchizedek, he received something, he took into something, and he embodied it on the side of the road. So he gained wisdom, and you know, for me, I'm looking at it, he's coming from Sodom and Gomorrah, these large battles. Then he's with, I think, was it his stepbrother or his brother-in-law, Lot, or they're related somehow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Lot's wife turned to a pillar of salt because she turned back. And to wrap it all back around what we've been talking about, going from one level to another level, and how these movies are talking about going from into enlightenment. Lot's wife, she turned around. She didn't want to move forward into her new self. And she got stuck and became stagnant, and she turned to a pillar of salt because she couldn't let go.
If you to bring it back to the movie thing, one of my favorite all-time movies, and I watch it at least twice a year, Dune. Now, Dune, Frank Hubert, he used a lot of Islamic and Buddhist principles and put it into this movie. And one of the key things in that movie is the spice of life. And on Arrakis, there's a planet called Arrakis. And on that planet, there are worms that they, by their movement, they produce a byproduct or water. And if you drink this water, there was a people called the Fremen, Freeman. And then we get some masonry in there, free men. The Fremen, they drank this water and they were able to take the spice of life or the bread, and their eyes would change blue because they were able to see things in a different way that nobody in the universe could see. They were able to see transdimensional. They became transdimensional beings. And what happens is over time, if you eat this spice of life, it would change your body to where you could actually fold space and time. And what would happen is this would actually give you the ability to create doors. And these doors, you would see beyond what man could see. And everybody was fighting for access to this spice of life or bread or wisdom and able to drink from this water that was created by these worms. And the whole movie, in an esoteric fashion, is that the family or the son, the main character, he had to become the Kwisatz Haderach, or the supreme being, which was to rule over the universe. The other families didn't want him to because they knew once he drank from the well, or he ate the bread of life or the spice of life, he would realize who his true potential was and who he is. So much that when he spoke his name, the very sound of his name would make the earth shatter and open up and swallow people because of the belief in who he was and what he could do. So when you look at the movie Dune in its esoteric fashion, it's like we're talking about eating the bread and wine. Christ was not actually saying, eat my physical body and drink my wine. He was saying, eat of my wisdom that I'm imparting to you so that you can connect with who you are in earth. So when you speak, people will stop and listen and you will cause change. So masonry, at the end of the day, always goes back to why are we in masonry? Because we are supposed to be learning and eating of this bread and wine that we are learning to cause change. Not just in ourselves, but in those around us. It always goes back to the universe that circles around us. All those things that were touched or we touch or touched by or affected, our family, ourself, our neighbor, and God. Everything is going to be affected by the decisions that we make, by the bread that we eat. Like God, like Christ said in the Bible, I eat of a different meat. You eat of a natural, I eat of a spiritual meat, because that which feeds me feeds my soul, which causes me to think and act different. And that's what we always go back to the red and the white. And like Mike was saying that, hey, but a female, because my wife and I was talking about, I truly believe in order for a marriage to be balanced, a man has to be in touch with his feminine or feminine energy, because he must know how to connect with her energy so that there's a balance, so that there's always a communion happening in the house. So there's never a conflict. There's always gonna be an argument. but it's not a conflict to the point where there's no charge. You're gonna have a plus and minus, but the plus and minus is there to create a charge, and everybody's balanced. So if that balance happens, you get connectivity, and you get a positive household. It's like at the end of the day, if somebody comes in your house, what's the first thing they say? Oh, this feel like home. This feel comfortable in here. It's warm. I like being in here, because there's a balance in energy. When people are out of whack, you like, I don't like going to this house. There's something ain't right. I ain't going over that. So you it's the energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just reminded me of some stuff I'm reading right now. The Palace of Abba and Ima. It's I'm trying to remember the actual guy who translated it, but it's going into the Lurianic Kabbalah. The Lurianic Kabbalah, and what he's talking about, he said, he mentions the 45 and the 52. The 45 is the woman, and the 52 is the man. So, or male and female, but it's the male and female energy that we have to cross level between both the man and the woman, the wife and the husband. You're cross leveling it, and it's the same principle concept of the red and the white, which I mentioned earlier, that we have our red and white, and the woman has their red and white, and we have to bring balance because our white meets their red, and their red meets our white.
Right. And and then we go right back to the lodge. Those two pillars, you come into contact as soon as you enter that lodge. That's that balance. That's that red and white, and blending with yours, with that balance, or meeting on what the level. So that level of understanding where we're all on the same plane, and we're trying to get to the same place.
Right. And when you got me thinking about the original pillars, a lot of people don't realize that Boaz and Jachin actually had colors. One was red and one was blue, and they represented two different energies. One was fire and one was water.
Yep.
So that you needed. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Chaim Vital. So yeah, Vital, he breaks it down. He's like 45, 50, 45 and 52, things like that. And he uses different numbers to express the different subtle energies. But yeah, the pillars, they actually had colors, red and blue, and the two energies that need to be brought into balance. And who brings things into balance? Thoth, not Thoth, but Anubis.
Yeah.
And when he has the feather of Ma'at, and he weighs it against the heart, and you notice the feather of Ma'at is white and the heart is red.
That's right. That's crazy. And as you're talking about fire and water, we were just talking about the two St. Johns, the two opposite triangles, inverted and inverted. You have to come together. You know, you got the John the Baptist and John the Evangelist. He had fire in his bones, and he one had to baptize. And we were just talking about lustration. It's like the two are opposite. They can cancel out each other, but they can also help each other.
Right.
Because one, if used properly, will produce the other. So.
Right. And if you the two of the three mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet is Mem and Shin, which is fire and water. When you look at Moses' name, what are the two letters that when you look at Hebrew, when you first put Moshe in there, that comes out is the Mem and the Shin.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's literally saying fire within the water or water within the fire. And back in the day, certain rituals and teaches and practices they did back in the day, and
fire water. That's right.
The fire water. You know, so how you gonna get it? You gonna burn it or you gonna wash it?
But it's the perfect balance. It's like people that say, how can you put fire on top of water? Well, there's a certain balance. You can get it done. There's a chemical you can have it, but you have to balance it in such a way that it has just enough oxygen, but not too much hydrogen by which the fire can sustain on water. It can be produced.
But at the same time, it's one subtle thing that people fail to realize when you think about fire and water. Think about yourself.
Yeah.
Your central nervous system inside of a human body, you literally have electricity, which is nothing but fire going through water and conduit going through your brain and synapses in your brain 24/7. You're literally fire water. You're Moses, you're Moshe, you're that fire within the water, bro.
That's right. I was just telling my wife that I said spontaneous combustion. At any time, you can explode. Like it's crazy how we have current going through our body and our lungs produce small fire, I call it moments of fire to create oxygen in our lungs. But nobody understands that. It says that's why when you smoke, you diminish that because it doesn't have enough free air to produce the right amount of fire to produce oxygen. It's a chemical reaction that happens every time you inhale and exhale. And it's so small, you don't even realize it. It's bananas.
Yeah, man, when you look at that, you're also, man, that right there, you're seeing the lungs.
Yeah. Your lungs, when you inhale, there is a chemical reaction in your lung that creates a fire that sparks and then creates oxygen that gets picked up, and then you exhale carbon dioxide. But it happens so fast, you don't even realize because you breathe so much. You don't even know it. You don't even know it. Like just that alone is fascinating to me how complex the human body is.
Right.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, I was watching something on the Buddha last night, and the Dalai Lama says we spend so much time focusing on the outside world, but if we focused on what was inside, we already know everything that's going on the outside.
Yeah. So everything you need to know is inside the human body. It's everything.
Right.
It's there, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. This is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. And you know what? As I look at Johnny Depp, I don't know. Johnny Depp always seemed like a real cat to me because every movie he's been in has been some deep esoteric level. Because he's been in like a lot of movies about hell, and then he got really weird when he did like Sleepy Hollow. Then he redid Alice. And then he what was the one where he was the barber and he was killing people.
Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd. It's like every movie he's in, it's like he thinks like that. So he likes to play those parts.
Yeah.
You know?
So he was also in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah.
He was Heath Ledger's alter ego.
Dude is.
Yeah, he was the bad side of Heath Ledger, man. That movie was a trip. I love it.
I gotta watch that. You know another movie? And I love Robin Williams. And Robin Williams is a complex character. And when you look at his life and why he committed suicide, I truly believe he struggled with being in this reality on this earth. Because every movie he created was him trying to transcend time and space in his mind to be somewhere else. So there was a movie called The Dreams, What May Come or something like that, May Come True or something like that. Yeah. Him and Cuba Gooding Jr. And I think his wife died or something like that. And Cuba Gooding was like this entity that tried to show him that there's another reality. You can live on life and all this stuff. And tried to show him how life can shape stuff. In that movie, again, he's going into another dimension. He's seeing things that are beyond what you see there. I watched Patch Adams the other night, and he was in a psych ward. And in the psych ward, there's this guy in there that's like this like a Tesla type dude. He's got like mad money, he's an invention or something like that. And he checked himself into a psych ward because people weren't understanding what he was saying. So he felt like, he said the only people that could understand him were the people in the psych ward. And he was like, what do you mean? And he said, and he put up his hand, he was like, I got 4 fingers. And he said, how many fingers am I holding up? I said 4. He said, no, look beyond what you see. And he said, when Robin Williams actually stopped looking at what he thought he saw, he actually saw 8 fingers. And he was like, you got to understand, what you think you see is not what you're seeing. You have to look beyond yourself. This reality is not everything that is. Stop thinking what people tell you is reality. Look beyond. And then when Robin Williams got that, he began to understand what his true calling was. It wasn't just being a doctor. It was being a healer, knowing what people really are going through and knowing their name and actually speaking to their mind and not just giving them medicine, but healing their heart so that they could be different, so that they can. So now the medicine was not just about giving a substance, what it's about, but giving a caring and a bedside manner, adding to the regimen because people would actually feel better and they would heal faster. And that's what he began to see in that movie. it's crazy. You watch it and it's like a heartfelt, but when you look beyond what's actually being said, we do it all the time. What one person may see a building, another person may see a home for the homeless or something to heal the heart. You may see a car that doesn't work anymore, but somebody may turn it into somewhere to grow vegetation or something like that. You're like, I didn't think to do that. Take the engine out and make it into something else. It's like what we think we see is not all that there is. And that's what people have always been to tell us. This is not our reality. This is not who you're supposed to be. There's more to you to that. And I think that's what Masonry is always trying to tell us, is that your death is death to what you think you know. What you think you know is not all. You're going to come stupid. Like, erase everything you know. Now I'm about to put a whole bunch in your head and I'm about to change your mind. And I think that's why it irritates people like myself and you and the Robert Houses of the world, is because people not taking the time to understand what they got in their hand. You have a doorway. You can go beyond what you think you know and do so much more. It's not just your 9 to 5. You can go beyond. You can become a royal a companion or an illustrious companion and go through the 9 levels. And then you may do something that you never thought you'd done before. You know what I'm saying? You may jump out of a plane. You may start a new business. It's whatever. But the point of the matter is, it takes you beyond what you think and know you are to be at this moment. And that's what I think Masonry really is all about.
Great way to end our show, brother.
Yeah, for real.
Brought that fire. We've come to the end of our show tonight. Hopefully you guys will enjoy watching this episode of Esoteric Lighthouse. Next month, we're going to go over practical esotericism. You know, most of y'all hear all these things about esotericism, is this, is that, but we're going to talk about the real practicalities behind it, not none of this hoopla, mumbo jumbo, this superstitiousness and this spookism that goes along with it, which deters people from wanting to talk about esotericism and occult topics. So we're going to try to demystify it a little bit further. We're going to peel that onion back a little bit more on esotericism by talking about the practical uses of esotericism and what it means for you in your day-to-day life.